Having the
Yeah.
ability to like take a dirt bike or a four-wheeler or go hunting or fishing or shooting or just whatever, like, love it. Welcome to USA FBO Fingerboard Podcast. I'm your host, Levine Cunningham, and I'm excited to be chatting with Clay Markley of Sqrl Nutt. Clay is also known as Sqrl, Sqrl Nutt on Instagram. Clay, thanks for coming on the podcast. How are you?
I'm excited.
It's been a long time coming. I'm excited to have you on the podcast. We've got an awesome episode coming to you guys. We've got Clay out in wherever the hell you're out of, but
Yeah.
we've got a watch to win. We've got Clay coming in hot with all kinds of topics, and we got a show for you. I am stoked. So, Clay, where are you out of? Like, where are you from?
I'm in a place called Watertown, Wisconsin. And it's pretty much in the middle of nowhere.
What's the closest city, I guess, that you could kind of market?
Oh, so that I would say exactly between Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Madison, state capital. Yeah. I would say
Okay.
about the midway point in between the two.
Okay. Okay.
And there's a lot of cornfields, a lot of farms. And it's beautiful. I mean, if you're into the rural landscape, it's going to be your thing.
I like the Midwest because
Yeah.
of all of the space, all of the just opportunities for space. I feel like all the city people, which I used to love being a city person, and like theoretically being in Indianapolis, like I'm still a city person, but having the
Yeah.
ability to like take a dirt bike or a four-wheeler or go hunting or fishing or shooting or just whatever, like, love it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we used to have in a farmhouse we rented out, my high school friends and I, and yeah, we got to shoot guns and drive our cars around in the fields and snap a few tires. Yeah, it was a great time. It was a great time, and yeah, I feel like people who grew up in the city maybe hasn't experienced that country living.
It's I've got a weird story. I don't even know if I should be even telling the story, but like 15, 20 years ago, I don't know. It was a long time ago, but I had a 86 Cavalier
Mm.
and motor was knocking, the magical knock. And we literally rolled out into this random field and we just tore this like old country field up, just donuts. We rolled it. We pretty much just destroyed this car. It was on its last leg. If anybody knows anything about an 86 Chevy Cavalier, this thing is tiny and pretty much worthless. Like, it's barely worth any scrap metal. It was a giant paperweight once it's no longer functional. So, but one of my fondest, like, just out of the ordinary country experiences, man, was literally just like wrecking this thing in the middle of the field.
Oh my gosh. That sounds amazing. And what a great memory to have. 'Cause,
It was a good time. It was a great Sunday.
yeah, those Cavaliers, I mean, I'll even see them still driving around here. Old Cavaliers still rolling around. In bright yellow. Yeah, I used to have a 95 Geo Prism. It was manual transmission.
Classic.
Yeah, we took it out in the field one night. Maybe some other things were involved. But yeah, we were driving around my Geo, and all of a sudden something snapped, and the car got really loud, and the Cadillac converter completely ripped off. And I just continued to drive that car until I ended up donating it to the boys' ranch.
It's a worthy cause. That's good looking out right there.
And like they let me know someone was really happy to get that car. Like, and I'm like, oh, cool. I couldn't have got $1 for it, but yeah, it's fun having those old car stories.
You can't, it looks super crazy. You can't have these car stories today. Like, no one's going to be
Mhm.
like, oh, like we ran a 20-year-old car, which would be what, like a 2003, like
Yeah.
something, and be like, have the same like story. Like, you'd be like, nah, dude, like 2003 is probably still good. Like, so for those that don't quite know who you are,
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much kind of explain in a nutshell what Sqrl, no pun intended, what Sqrl Nutt is. Like, what does Sqrl Nutt do?
Squirrel Nut is a version of me, of course, and I believe it's the name for my art and music and just all my passions in one place. And I believe that's how I describe it on my bio for the page. I say finally there's a place for all of the weird things I do. Or for I like to make clothes. I like to you know um, I like to make cities and like it doesn't make any sense. Like who, yeah, how do you mark that all of that in one place? But it just unified everything for me, to have everything I'm passionate about in one place. And yeah, and then it just kind of trickles down from there. All of a sudden it started me uh, teaching me like how much freedom I have, not just as a person, as an artist, but like in business, or if you're trying to professionalize something. It's like there's so much freedom to put your personality in there. Um yeah, so Squirrel Nut, it just kind of evolved from there, and it was a name for all the things I'm passionate about in one place.
I kind of had that vibe where it
Yeah,
just seems like organized chaos.
right,
But I'm like, I
right.
don't know if I can introduce you as organized chaos. So I'm like, hmm.
And I think that's a great way to describe me, and I think my fiance would very much agree with you.
Organized chaos is good. It's uncontrolled chaos, which is bad.
Right, right.
No, definitely. I feel like you're very, very well, like just skate cultured.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I would say, yeah, resounding yes with that. Skateboarding was everything to me when I was a kid, and for so many reasons. So yeah, I really have a strong connection with that. And shop owners, like growing up with these cool shop owners that just would give me and my friends hope in these small cities and small towns that we were in. And whether it's giving us some stickers or being the first person in that whole area to be selling fingerboards that aren't just at Kmart, you know, selling these nice fingerboards and equipment. So
I'm gonna
a
assume
lot
that
of inspiration.
no, definitely. I'm gonna assume that
Yeah.
skateboarding came first, right?
Yes, it did.
I don't know how
Absolutely.
far back you were fingerboarding. So sometimes fingerboarding comes first, then skateboarding. Sometimes skateboarding comes first, then fingerboarding. So it's always interesting to hear how that kind of comes about.
It is. And as a young skateboarder with, the tech takeover, um, I fully embellished in it. I love fingerboarding, and skateboarding really introduced me to it. So I'm one of the skateboarders that love fingerboarding. I know some skateboarders don't like fingerboarding, but they they might have had a bad taste for it or something. But and I always talk to skateboarders about it. It's like, well, what do you do on a rainy day? I know you're not going to go out in the rain, or some of you will, but what if there's a storm out there and it's windy? It's a way to fingerboard anywhere, and you can take this world and make it your own. Your own miniature world right there. I love that concept,
It's also kind of
and I
weird the stigma though that goes behind skateboarders not necessarily being really fond about fingerboarding, which I haven't had too many cases of it, but
yeah.
it is weird though that there's still that stigma.
There is, and you know, I had heard about it, and I just didn't really think much of it. But I've actually experienced it a few times now, and or I'll be at the skate park, and I'll bring a fingerboard, and you'll get smarky, snarky remarks like, "Oh, I'm gonna go actually skate," and I don't know. Some kid that said that not too long ago, and all the other kids that fingerboarded gave him a hard time, and he's like, "Oh, I shouldn't have said anything." So that was kind of cool, and yeah, and especially being a skateboarder, it's like these, Tech Deck was representing professional skateboarders, so it really went hand in hand, and they still do that.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it's they're blurred lines. It's the ability to blur that line, and I think as fingerboarding grows, I think there's going to be more people, of course, that jump on, and whenever that happens, of course, there's going to be some people who oppose it, maybe oppose the views that fingerboarding gets.
There's
Um,
always resistance, I feel like, in everything.
oh yeah, oh absolutely, and like recently seeing, someone's opposition towards the fingerboard community. What I've noticed is it's bringing a lot of people together. And anytime like I've seen that in my life, like conflict begins, and it makes us kind of dig deeper into our roots and positions us even more. And all of a sudden you're like, no, this is where I stand. Like the line is drawn, and this is where I stand in the sand here.
You have a lot of like skate parks in your area, or is it kind of few and far in between?
No, there's quite a bit in Wisconsin. 30 minutes in every direction. I think there's a different skate park for me, which is amazing. And they're great skate parks, and kids, man, kids really pushing the skateboarding in places like this. Just like how other kids pushing the sports really hard to kind of get them out of their situation, and take them somewhere else. I feel like fingerboarding gives you something to do in a small town, or skateboarding gives you something to do, and like you can add that purpose to your life. Like you can add that whole element to your life of, hey, I'm a skateboarder, and um, yeah, it can be so wonderful in so many ways. For me, keeping me out of trouble was probably the most positive thing about skateboarding. Yeah, and it always gave me like a sense of belonging. Just caters to the outsider, the people
Yeah.
who feel different and more alternative, and having a tough time holding down a job, or like, just kind of the people who get it. And just like a place for them. And I think a lot of the kids too that I skated with, a lot of us didn't have, father figures in our life. And it let us kind of bust that steam out, man, and gave us a way to blow off steam and express ourselves. And
Some of the stuff, I guess, never leaves.
which is so important. Like they talk about this inner child. I don't know. When I was a kid, I really loved to play with toys. Like that feeling it gave me, and this, it was like reading a book. Just like brought me to a different place. And I feel like I've never like lost that. I think music and art has really helped me continue with what I would call the inner child. And
Oh, I feel that 12-year-old me is
uh,
definitely stoked for me right now.
yeah, it's funny you mentioned, because I always kind of have to like check myself and be like, well, what would the younger version of me say? Like, what would I say to myself? Like, man, you're getting a finger, go
Yeah.
crazy. So it's like, hey, pay some respect to that kid who, it's beyond a dream. Like, I couldn't fathom. It wasn't in my realm of like understanding that I could be like a fingerboarder. Never in my life, man. Even if you told me like a few years ago,
It's kind of weird the transition over the last like probably 5 years with fingerboarding because of that. Like fingerboarding to me isn't necessarily what you do at this point is almost kind of like who you are. And so like
Mm-hmm.
for me at least, like I identify as a fingerboarder instead of I like to fingerboard. And so like it's kind of a weird
Yeah.
transition for people like this is what I did for a hobby instead of like this is who I am. So
Mm-hmm.
like gamers have been that way for like a long time. They're like, some people like, oh, I video game or I'm a gamer. Like that's what I do.
It is. It's a huge part of identity. I feel throughout my lifetime, people have always known me as a fingerboarder because, not a lot of people did it or were actually could ollie. Like a lot of friends messed around with fingerboards, but the ollie was like the hardest part to get down. So it made me very memorable. Like, oh, that's the kid that fingerboards. Hey, that's the kid that's really good at fingerboarding. So there's just so much excitement with that. It's like, oh, I'm the only kid in this town that really fingerboards and is known as a fingerboarder. And if I still talk to people like my friends or people from from school, they'll say yeah, Clay's always been into fingerboards. It's like so a huge part of identity, and it shows people a lot about you, and just like having that playful spirit, that joyful spirit, the ability to not judge people for liking something silly, silly.
I feel like
Like, well, are
everybody
you gonna?
has to like something. And so I think
No.
we're kind of at the day and age now where like everybody's got that one thing that they kind of like turn to. And I feel like the world now has gotten so like there's just so many like weird things out there to like get into that like fingerboarding now is no longer like so taboo-ish.
These subcultures, turn into more subcultures, and they open up opportunities for. I like to call them skill toys, toys that involve skill. Um, a lot of fingerboarders are very good at kendama or like yo-yos. Just silly little like finger toys or fidgets, whatever you can get your fingers on, or like pen spinning.
It's funny because like a couple of years ago, I wouldn't even have known what the term skill toy really was until like the Kadama universe just kind of sucked me into like everything that they were kind of doing and stuff. And I realized that like yo-yos, Kadamas, or Rubik's cubes, like just pretty much
Yeah.
anything that fits in your hand. Like, I mean, it's absolutely crazy how like big that spear is.
I think a lot of people, at least a lot of people, I've lived with or friends, I've felt for some of them that really have no passions. A lot of my friends would work all day and get home and watch TV until they fall asleep and go to work again.
I've met a couple people like that. It is
Yeah,
weird. First off, no disrespect if you are one of those
no
people.
disrespect. Yeah,
It's just weird to me that like you can kind of go through life and not have something that you enjoy on the side. Like
right. See, I
it was
can't live
weird.
like
Some
that.
people are like, I
Yeah.
just watch sports and that's it. And I'm like, well, watching
Mhm.
sports to me doesn't qualify as like a passion-ish, I guess. Maybe if you like attended sports or something like that, or I don't know, it's just weird. But that was like the only like thing you had. And like that didn't require like, I don't know, to each their. I mean, let me know in the comments if you think that, watching sports is considered a hobby or not. Like, let's clarify that, I guess. But it was just weird. Like I met a couple people.
Yeah.
They're just like they don't have a hobby. They don't really game. They don't really like do anything. They don't do fingerboarding. They don't
Mhm.
game. They don't whatever hobby else is there out there. They don't collect Legos. They don't do nothing. And I'm like, that's wild.
Like, as you get older, you wish you had more time to do things. And then when you're young, it's like, oh, I got all this time. I don't even have to worry about that. It's on 25 or 30. I'm not even worry about that. It just changes, completely. It's like, wow, I have so much I can do. Like, there's so much I can accomplish with my time if I use it constructively. And yeah, it's never been okay with me to sit there and I've had to have passions. And I think for me, philosophically, it's like I need those things for my purpose, man. I need those things because they add meaning to my life. Because a lot of a lot of my outlook is, there are a lot of life is what you put into it, um, and whatever comes out is a result of that.
No,
I see it every
definitely.
yeah, I see it every day. It's like, what if, like, I like to go to the gym. It's like, what if I didn't go to the gym and talk to all those people? Like, it gives me a sense of like, wow, I get to experience all this because I got off the couch. Because I didn't watch that extra TV show. Like, I still watch TV every day. I try to watch an hour of TV, but I guess, I did have some college experience that opened me up to like time management, and losing a lot of people along the way. It alters that outlook and perception of time.
I mean, it really kind of boils just down to your hobbies. And so
Mm,
most people, if you don't have hobbies, then your friends are basically be coworkers for the most part. And so
mm,
coworker friends,
yeah,
there's nothing wrong with them. But, if you don't have any other hobbies or passions, then it's hard to have those connections outside of work. I feel like those connections outside of work are what like drives you forward and like gives your life even more purpose, things to look forward to, stuff like that.
absolutely. And I'm the type of person, I need multiple things that I'm passionate about. Like, otherwise, I take one way too seriously. Well,
That's fair enough. Fair enough.
like, I'm the kind of person, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to go all in, and then I start taking it too serious and I get hurt, or I hurt somebody. It's balance for me. I think that's something I'm always working on and will continue to work on, is balancing that. And um, but I do notice, if I get into just fingerboarding alone, I start to like look at all the parts and get really analytical, and um, it stops becoming fun. It becomes a serious thing that I'm taking way too serious, and that's just my experience. Every time like I take myself too serious, awful things happen. I just
It's because things are always meant to be fun. I gotta
mm,
sometimes kind
mm,
of remember that stuff too. I feel like I'm definitely doing too much and I like to just jump into things, and next I
mm.
realize I'm like, man, I'm actually working way too much.
Yeah, yeah, and like, I think one of the dangers of that too is like overbooking, and then all of a sudden the integrity and like the quality starts to fall off because you're trying to get too much done. Um, so
That's
a few months ago, I really had to take a break, and I had to get back in touch with like, why am I doing this? Like, what's my intention? That's something I'm always challenged with. I have mentors in my life, and that's one of my challenges, like intention. What am I intending to do with my website? Is it for self gain, or is it for the community? And like, where is my heart at? Why am I doing this? And like, maybe I forgot where I came from. And this is because it should be about art and fun and expression, and to be able to be a little nuts and be able to do so many different things. It's like, because all of a sudden it just became all about decks and like how many I can get out. It's like, it took me away, and I started to like take myself way too seriously. So I decided I needed to change my outlook once again and remember kind of where I came
that's kind of funny that you kind of mentioned that story as
from.
well. Like I try to get out to as many like events and stuff like that as possible, meeting with people, stuff like that, because I have the history of just taking things too seriously and just driving things just in a certain way. And sometimes I kind of start to lose focus of why I'm doing those. And so like it's always kind of like good for me to just be around people that just remembers like, hey, dude, this is all about fingerboarding and it's not about this or it's not about that, and just keeping everything as authentic as possible.
Mm.
because it's really
Yeah.
easy once you start getting on a roll and people start loving what you're doing to like kind of just veer off a little bit, not even intentionally. You just start thinking like, how do I make this bigger? How do I make this better? How do I make this, like up here? In reality, it doesn't need to
Mm,
be up here. It needs to be like right where it was, because that's where we were having the most fun. And so like it's kind of like it's a weird way. It's just you definitely got to kind of go back to your roots and stuff like that. And so it's
mm,
definitely nice to
mm.
have people that you hang out with, stuff like that kind of keep you in check.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like a smoke alarm goes off when I start like, yeah, veering from that path, like from my number one rule. When I started, my number one rule is have fun, and now
Definitely.
my second rule now is keep it fun, and that's what's most important. Because if it's not fun, like there's no reason in doing it. And yeah, it sure is. One thing's for sure, it's not about money.
No, this whole thing is
Yeah,
literally, it's all about passion. It's all about, that's
it
all
is.
that's, because you can make a quick buck, but you can't do it for an extended period of time. Passion at some point
Yeah.
has to be there to just take over.
Mm. Yeah, I tried doing Sqrl full time for, I would say, I got about 6 months in, maybe 6 to 8 months, and by the end I was very tired. And I'm like, you know what, I got to pick up some side work, like, because it just, what had happened was I was putting so much stress and pressure on my website and my art, and it just squandered it. So I was like, yeah, so to take the pressure off, it's like I needed to get some side work, and that's just made my life so much easier.
I mean, unpopular belief, that's kind of where I was at as well. I was full time
Mm,
USAFBL. We had a storefront for about a year, almost a year and a half.
I
And
remember
I
that.
mean,
Yeah.
I loved it, but it was so stressful trying to keep that place
Mm,
open. And so once that kind of like I
yeah.
was able to like kind of close the doors there, like it gave me so much of my life back. And so
Mm,
like I feel like fingerboarding
wow.
full time is great, but I feel like fingerboarding full time turns your hobby into work, which isn't something that I didn't realize, that like you can't do the two. Like once
Mm,
you become full time into your passion, it no longer like, I don't know how to explain it. Like
yeah.
it doesn't work in your like favor. Like it kind of turns you off to that passion a little bit, because it just becomes
It
work, and it becomes
does.
something that you have to do instead of something that you used to enjoy to do.
Yeah, and it's amazing like how many people warned me about that too. Like a
I hear it
lot
all
of
the
people
time, and I'm
warned
like, there's
me.
no way.
Yeah.
Like, how is doing more of what I love like worse? Like, it doesn't make, like, the math isn't mathing.
Yeah, it's that common tale of like, it's a gift. Like it's a gift to you. I'm not saying gifted. I'm saying this is a gift to you. And whenever I abuse a gift, that's when I start disliking it. And just because it's almost as if I disrespected it. Um, so yeah, that balance there, keeping that balance once again. Yeah.
Definitely. It's definitely a balance. I don't know what to balance it with. That's something that
Right.
I have to kind of figure out on my own, but there's definitely a
Yeah.
balance for sure.
There is, because I can go crazy about fingerboarding. I just love that I love it so much that I could go all out for it. And burn myself out and run myself ragged, and then at the end, like fast forward, at the end I'm very tired and I'm exhausted and I'm not liking fingerboarding and I don't want to touch my phone.
Yeah, it's the social media aspect of it is crazy.
Yeah, it
When you say don't touch your phone, there's definitely days where I'm just like, I don't want to look at this thing, but I have too many accounts and too many notifications.
yeah, I have too many people depending, you know, if they got, if they got their order, or like maybe there's a problem. So I'm always, yeah, but I like it. I just love where it's at now. I love the ability to, if I want to take a couple days break from drawing and like focusing on fingerboarding, I can. That website's still going to be there. My Instagram account's still going to be there. Um, I love that. And the way I set up my site, it's like I'm just going to throw things on there as I go. Not this whole pressure to have 20 decks and because I create these like unrealistic expectations, not just goals. It's like, well, in order to do this, it has to be perfect. And right away, I feel like that's a horrible attitude. Like, we just got to get my understanding is like we just got to get this plane off the ground.
I think I'm
I'm
guilty
starting
of
with this.
that.
Yeah,
I'm
like
definitely
I
guilty of
just
that.
and with that, of course, I want to have a great, at least confident about like my logo and the products that I do have. But I'm not. I have to go through a few places to be there. Like I have to pay the dues. Um, like they say in life, you'll get there, but you have to pay your dues. And once
Yeah.
again, I think at 35, I started. I'm like, man, I'm 35, and I'm just now starting to pay dues.
Age
And
is
but
just age is just a
yeah,
number. I mean,
yeah,
there's people that started companies. I mean, I don't remember the guy that started KFC. He was like what in
mm.
his 50s, I think, or something like that.
Oh
Before he
wow,
started KFC, and
mm.
now just
Right.
absolutely crazy. So I mean, you can start later in life. I think the key though is
Mm.
just to start.
Yeah, start with what you got. The best you can do with what you got. Like I have just some apps on my phone, and that's where at one of my last jobs, my last full-time jobs, I downloaded this graphic design app, and when I had downtime at my job, I would just mess on there, and that's how I like came up with my logo. And um, when the first logo came out, I look back and cringe on it, but I'm like, well, it got me to this logo, and it's the one I have now, and um, or at least on my Instagram. So just making a start, downloading an app where you can edit pictures or cut and splice stuff. And, then you start looking at these brands that you love. It's like, oh, how do they do that? Like, how do they create that graphic? Oh, that's mixed media art. Like, oh, I should dive into some of the mixed media art. We've got some amazing mixed media artists. I think Funeral's another one of those, Funeral and Double Joint. Um, it's mixed media artists. And I'd love to ask more questions like, oh, do you draw as well? Do you create some of these images, or are you splicing? Yeah, it intrigues me. Just that facet of art that lives within the fingerboard community.
I like how honestly, let me backtrack. I don't
Yeah.
think there's actually enough art in the fingerboarding sphere.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
a lot of graphics I see are kind of recycled from other companies like skateboarding brands and stuff like that, but I don't really see a lot of original art, in my opinion.
Yeah.
For as many
I
companies that are
yeah.
out there, like I feel like there should be
Hmm.
way more original pieces.
Mhm. Well, it's I think about the trifecta, right? Like I look at like a lot of my favorite musicians and their ability. Like, one of my favorite bands is Sublime. And Brad Noel, he could play guitar, he could sing, and he could write songs. So he was a triple threat in every way. And so and Kurt Cobain's another one of them. They could sing, they could write, and they could play. And that's how I kind of look at fingerboarding. For me, it's I draw, like you can tell which are my original drawings, and you can tell which is mixed media, and it's clear to see. So I've worked really hard in the ability to do all three, like make the decks, um, create the graphics and package them and sell them and market them. Like it's the ability to do all those things, but I think realistically, it's the ability to know what I do not excel with, and partner up with people who do excel with them. And like, hey, I really love focusing on just making graphics. I really do. Um, and the more I'm making boards, the more I'm not creating art. So it's like, so I've done that. I have partners now that we all work together. So we can all focus on what we're good at and what the best at.
That's how you
What's your team?
develop your
Yeah.
perfect team. That's
Yeah.
being able to recognize what you're not great at, and then basically
Mm,
bringing people on that fill that void is like that's
mm,
literally the dream team.
yeah. Knowing your limitations. Old bartenders tell me that every man must know his limitations. Um, and it's not that I like give up in those areas. It just naturally inclined to those where I am in other areas. I have an eye for detail, and I think that really helps with my art and how I want the board to come out. So
Speaking of
just
the
knowing my
art,
strengths. Yeah.
oh, definitely. So like I know like 90s metal, 90s rock, that's
Mhm.
definitely I guess more of an inspiration because I'm looking at like your logo and it's definitely
Mhm.
giving me those vibes.
Oh yeah, the retro. Yeah, I would say uh very much 90 influence. I grew up in the 90s in the heart of it, man. And I'm talking Vanilla Ice, MC Hammer. I was up in it.
I feel you. I feel 90s was literally probably the best decade to be alive in my opinion.
Same. So
The attitude era. I mean, there was just so much attitude from music to
ah,
wrestling
yeah.
to sports and celebrations. I mean, they don't do touchdown celebrations like they did in the 90s. Like that was like literally the best times to be alive.
It was. Everything was so new. I mean, the internet,
The
like,
internet, yeah.
yeah, like just the creation of the internet. It's an interesting generation to be
It's
there for
absolutely
the creation
crazy.
of, yeah, to think about.
I was around for the floppy disk, which is nuts. When I went to
Hmm.
college, I had to buy a flash drive or a thumb drive or whatever you want to call it. I remember
Yeah.
getting a 512 megabyte thumb, like just a flash drive at Staples on sale for $80.
Oh man.
I know.
Oof.
And now they're like $4.99 at Walmart. Like it's
Oh
absolutely
yeah.
crazy. And
Use the
that's with our
iCloud,
inflation.
man.
Like it's absolutely crazy. But yeah, it's just
Yeah,
like how far everything has came along and just watching everything kind of grow from there. It's like absolutely nuts.
it is. And I think it's fascinating to look back and see like, hey, there was one time I didn't have a cell phone. I remember not having a cell phone, and like fingerboarding was even more um time fulfilling because we didn't have a cell phone. We had fingerboards.
We had all that,
And
which is like kind of
yeah.
crazy. Even when we had cell phones, like we primarily used them for games. Like we didn't really
Mhm.
have anybody that was like it was really for like emergencies only. Like, we
Mhm.
pretty much just kind of called just to call. We had night and weekends and all that other stuff. So, if it's not 7 o'clock, like we didn't answer the phone unless it was an emergency anyway. So
Wow, pagers and pagers, man, bring them back.
all the
Just
codes.
like, yeah, the pagers.
And then you
Oh,
see the 911, you're like, oh snaps, I gotta go.
I gotta go.
I gotta go.
Yeah, just such an interest. And I don't know if there's been, too much reflection on that. The unique times that we've been through with the invention of pretty much fingerboarding and the internet and video game systems. I mean, the list just goes on and on. It's remarkable.
I agree. I
To have
agree.
that contrast, remembering where we came from, right?
Well, that's the kind of the thing. Everything kind of goes back full circle. You got to kind of remember where you came from and then realizing where you're going, and then also having full awareness of what's actually happening in real time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hindsight's 2020. It's easy to look back and see everything clearly, but in the moment, I don't know. It's interesting looking back. It's like, wow, I was really narrow-minded. Wow, I didn't know that was possible. And I think I start to see those circles kind of in my life, those patterns of like, oh, I need to be more hopeful in myself because some really cool things have happened. And yes, a lot of things have come to an end, but that ability to like dig deep and say, it's over when I say it is, man. That's it. You know, we used to say that when we were kids. It's like it's not over until the fat lady sings.
I never
And
understood that quote, but I know if I do some digging, it
yeah,
would probably make some sense.
yeah, it's funny because I figured it out. I used to watch, like, I saw this old Viking stage play, and at the end, there was this lady singing. Her name was probably Helga, and she was singing, and I'm like, oh, okay, so it's not over till it's over.
Hmm,
Yeah,
interesting.
it was more of a Looney Tune era for sure, when the Looney Tunes were the best cartoon on TV.
It was a great time to be alive for sure.
Great time.
So with the 90s logo vibes, like how did you like Sqrl Nut? Where does that come from? Like I'm always curious as to like how people come up with
Yeah.
their branding and their name. Like, did you think of it? Was it given to you?
Um, I kind of thought of it for myself. I think it was a way to, and yeah, I created a name for myself, but I think it came from people saying squirrel to me all the time. Um, I used to not be on any medication for my ADHD, and every 5 seconds it was like squirrel, squirrel. Like my mind was a million places at once. So a lot of people would be like squirrel and then just call me squirrel and Sqrl Nut. I always love that funny saying, man, I'm squirrel nuts.
No, I love it. I
Yeah.
love the vibe. I love the misspelling of like squirrel and all that. I'm like, dude, you just created this weird vibe that like I love, and I don't understand why I like it. I just know that I love it.
It's silly. It's cool. And I don't, you know, I never want that to change. And I think a way to do that is with any brand, you make it a little bigger than yourself, and it's not all about you. And and then it becomes something bigger than you. And I've seen that with other companies and that I've worked with, and other brands that I was involved with, and stores I was involved with. So
Definitely.
that, yeah, when we touched on that too, it I think what it represents is that ability to put yourself into your business. And when I say yourself, your personality, the ability to put your personality into your business. Period. There's so much influence to be. What is professional? What does professional look like to me? Is it, like Nike? Is that the standard, or what companies do I really enjoy in this community? And why do I like them so much? Maybe because I love how they express themselves. They have a new logo every 5 weeks. They're always coming out with a new idea, or a new fresh graphic. It's like, that's what I want to do. I want to be more like that. And I also know that it's super important, like being a customer my whole life. I know what it's like to have good service, and I know what it's like to have bad service. So and I was in customer service, and I've been in sales. So I've worked with um, a lot of people in my life, and there would be no business without people. So we have to be able to talk to people, and if we want to continue to do what we do, we have to remain professional and respond in a timely manner and ship things out in a timely manner and pack them well. It's just those basics, right?
Yeah.
The basics, covering
Business
the basics.
101.
How's my packaging look? You know, do I have packaging? Or am I wrapping it in a towel or putting it in an old sock? Am I putting enough bubbles? Like, because I used to ship instruments. I worked at Guitar Center, and I'd ship instruments, so you'd have to pack them really well. And it's like, wow, you guys put a lot of time to that. You're putting metal bars in there, like, why? So, and then seeing the things come back that weren't packaged correctly, it's like, oh, okay, that gave me a little experience with shipping and receiving. And then at this business, I managed this business, and it was talking to customers all day long. And just knowing like what made those ventures successful or those businesses successful, what did work, what didn't work.
So you
A
basically
lot of
brought
it.
all of that experience into just Sqrl Nutt, the brand. So
Yeah, yeah. And I do have a long resume. Um, and I've done marketing for some companies. I was in the health and fitness field, and I ran marketing and social media. I've done from a singer for a singer, and yeah, I've gotten some great experience because I have music background and a lot of experience selling something that's not tangible. Music is selling and advertising something that you listen to. You're relying on your ears. You're relying on people's ears. So making that transfer from a to a tangible product is just night and day.
it's definitely different. It's still
Mm,
kind of structured the same, but definitely
mm.
different.
Yeah, because there's just that visual appeal, like with any art. Like you see it and it communicates to you. There's an immediate response. Like there's an immediate interaction. Whereas like a movie, there's some character development. It takes a while to understand and like paint the picture of the scene and like location and who these characters are, and music as well. Like I have to listen to the intro or the instrumental before the verse, before the pre-chorus, and then there's a chorus. Like I have to wait to get to those parts, so I have to be patient. And I've heard it said, the microwave generation that we are, it's like we want things right away, and we want to see them right away. And art is that immediate response, shifting to from music more to fingerboarding is it's totally different for me.
No, I feel that 100%. I've
Mm,
noticed that you definitely tell you incorporate a lot of that into like a lot of the products that you make. And so I
mm.
mean it's I mean, let's talk about some of the stuff that you make and what you basically just tell us a little bit about the shop, Sqrl Nutt itself. And
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I have 3 stations. I would say no, 4 stations in the home. Um, I started Sqrl Nut out of my basement. It's the art area where all my paints are and markers and kind of the location I'm in right now. And then in the deeper side of the basement, I do my woodworking. I have an induction fan for painting and sanding, so I can do that inside in the winter. And then I have an outdoor cutting station. I have a scroll saw, bandsaw, jigsaw. I have a ton of saws. Just working with wood, and um, I love like angle cuts and the challenge of like angle cuts. It's like my daily challenge. Yeah, so a lot of these stations have developed from like art, and I have my room where my skate park is, and then like my music studios in there as well. So that's like the mecca, and where I spend the most time, and I draw in there, and I draw on my iPad, or I'll draw on paper. Um, yeah, so that's the location of Sqrl Nut, the hub, the Nut House is, yeah, I would say 4 stations.
Yeah, a lot going on.
Yeah, yeah, and in that station, I do my shipping and packing and receiving. I have multiple printers. I have a Cricut that I've become very good with from a lot of headaches, but yeah, it gives me the ability to make my own stickers. Make I make a lot of my friends and partners stickers too. Um, the whole process of just making them. I paid some dues there. I went through a lot of printers and a lot of settings. So yeah, every little nuance, and even the saws, even the details in the saws, having the right blade, and oh, how do I cut granite? Like, how do I cut marble? It's like, oh, I need a wet saw. So it's like discovering the saws.
It's a
The right
rabbit
tool for
hole.
the job.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
it
rabbit hole
is.
for sure.
And then sanders, like sanders are important. Belt sander, orbitals, everything. Dremel tools, even the bits you get are important. Everything matters because it is science. Like it is, there is a science to it. There is a process to everything. Um, I think I was kind of how I like learned guitar was more of that Zen approach of like, oh, I'm going to be as good as I want to be, like according to the time I put into this, and yeah, just things like that. Like, oh, my integrity shows in every single step I take. Oh, really? So everything I do should matter. Um, yeah, more of that. And I did go to like some college for. I studied theology, philosophy, so a lot of like a lot of work internally. Um, and yeah, I don't even know where I was going with that.
That's interesting. I love it. I love it.
I'm just, I'm just gonna talk.
Oh man. All right, so I've been kind of creeping your page, and I've
Yeah.
had a few things pop up and stuff I've seen in your stories in the past with you do a lot of like collabs.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Like you might be
Yeah.
like the collab king in my opinion. Like you do a lot.
Really?
Maybe. I don't know. I mean you do a
Oh
lot,
man,
which there's
that's
nothing wrong
awesome to
with it.
hear.
I feel like
Yeah.
collabs is like the ultimate way of just kind of like hyping things up. I like doing
Yeah.
collaboration events, stuff like that, because whenever you're combining two different experiences, experienced people and stuff like that, like there's always something amazing that comes out of it.
Yeah, and I think it takes a village. I heard that so many times in all these bands I played in. It's like it takes a village. Um, I can't do this alone. Like just knowing that, and really those collabs, like my motives are like, hey, this is a really dope deck maker. Like people should know about them, and it never hurts promoting someone else. Like never. It will only open up the finger world even more. And from doing those collaborations and connecting, like making connections, I'm not saying every person I talk to I make a connection with, but there are people I have, and these brands that I love, they set the ar for me. Like I'm a huge fan of Double Joint and these pants and chems. Like they have the art I love, they have the shapes I love, um, and the way they conduct the business is like, so it's easy for me, and how they like sponsor events and how they're impacting their communities, off of social media, because that's what's important to me is, and probably the most rewarding feeling I've experienced is like making a difference in my little town. Um, I've had kids ask me like, "Hey, Claire, are you gonna move away?" And I'm like, "Why are you asking me that?" Or like, "Are you leaving?" And I'm like, "No, I'm." And it's just like them coming to me for advice, or if they're like struggling with things at home. I can just share a little bit of my experience with them, and it's not me preaching to them. It's just like, oh yeah, that happened to me once, and this was my experience with it. So just having, it's the same kids that we were, right? Those kids that probably don't have a father figure in their life, and or prominent in their life, and just looking for some advice, having like a male figure in their life. That really makes a difference. And it just starts with one person. Like, there's one. We have this old skate park here in Watertown. It was made in the '80s. It's all metal. It's all rusted. And we go and skate. He's like, "Hey man, I'm going to the skate park. If you're around," I'm like, cool, I'll come down. um, and it just feels like we're doing good things. And so I think now I'm transferring into like chasing that feeling more
It's
often.
an intoxicating feeling, I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah,
One of the reasons why I love
yeah,
sponsoring events and hosting
mm,
events and just whatever I can kind of do for the community and stuff. It's just like, I don't know, it's just
yeah,
like my way of getting that oxytocin, like that, just that that
mm,
that hit.
yeah. And it's like, how do I always come back to that saying. It's like, who do I want to be in the world? Who do I see out there, and who do I want to see out there? The change that I see in the world, like I have to be that change, and that starts right here at home. I always had that feeling like, but once I get there, I'll be this person, and it'll be awesome. And but I just got to get there someday. And it's just not going to be today. Like, mindset now is like, no, it's today. Like, I think Abe Lincoln used to say that is like, why do tomorrow what you can do today.
It's
Um,
definitely a standard. It's definitely
yeah.
you've got to set the bar and you got to create the
Mm,
standard.
mm, mm.
And I think a lot of people are waiting to get in a position to do that instead of just starting on the journey to do that.
Yeah. And I've been at it for a little bit, and I just starting to see those patterns in my life. What brings me the most joy? Like, what's bringing me that fulfillment? Like, I've never like, yeah, I used to have music that I gave my whole life to. I put every dollar I had into it. I was so passionate about, and I still do music, just not for me. But um, it's like now I have something I'm so excited about, and I'm gonna do it all again. I'm already doing it all again, and I love it. I'm willing to sacrifice things for the things I love, passionate about, the things I love. I'm I used to say, why not give till it hurts a little bit? Like, why not? Because I had somebody sending these sponsor packages that were huge, and it made me kind of think about the sponsor packs I was sending out. I'm like, wow, these guys, man, they're setting the bar. Like, maybe I should be sending out more.
No, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
I would send whatever it is that you feel comfortable sending. Everybody's position
Yeah.
is a little bit different. And a lot of people,
Mm,
I mean, if you're hand making a lot of your stuff, I mean, it's time consuming. So some
yeah.
people, if
Yeah.
you only send 2 items, that doesn't mean you don't love us any less. It could be that, hey,
Right.
I spent 15 hours on these, 2 items. And so there's a
Yeah.
there's a lot that kind of goes into packs and stuff like that as well. So like for me, I try to throw
Mm,
in as much as possible. But I mean, for others that,
mm.
literally 3 or 4 hours into each item, like, you can only send so much stuff.
Yeah. And time is so valuable, and that's how I always kind of looked at it. And now I'm like just happy if someone sends a couple stickers. Like anything helps. Like anything. I compensate for a lot of it, and like I think that last event I made had 10 decks that I'd made and had got a ton of sponsors to pitch in. Like everyone went home with something. Everyone went home with like at least a tech deck and stickers that came. So yeah, it doesn't take much. And there's like trinkets, like I know Sewer. I think Sewer used to, or probably still does that. Gives out little bottles and stuff, and I've always had those. Like I have little mushrooms and little trinkets, squirrel trinkets, I call them. Just giving out stuff like that, kids go crazy. Like an odd little squirrel that I give them, or
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, speaking of which,
yeah.
you got an upcoming event.
Yes, I do. It's an event stemming. I formed a Wisconsin fingerboarder group. Um, so now we're starting to really kind of get the ball rolling. Of course, with help from friends like Pipsqueak and Zegheads, like they've really encouraged me to doing events. Um, at first at the whole fear, and I think it just kind of creates a little anxiety getting the first one done with. Like, oh, are people going to show up? Like, are people going to laugh at me? Just those little things, like, um, and just like having them be like, hey, this is what's working for us, and no, I haven't had issues with that. Yes, I have had issues with this and this, and just starting to know those. Um, and I'm and the way I'm approaching events is at least one for sure has been very unorthodox. My first event was actually at a music festival.
Fingerboarding event or just event
Yeah,
period?
well, I brought a bunch of like items there. So
Okay.
I had, it was a pop up shop, and yeah, I invited everyone, and I had a skate park set up. Um, and it was just like, it was just ridiculous. Like to see people be like, what is this? What are you doing here? It's like, just hitting a whole different like demographic of people, or a whole different community of people by introducing like fingerboarding to a music festival. It was awesome, man. Like, did I make any money? Probably not. It went to a nonprofit. It's called Jam for Jamaica. Every year they have this festival where they raise money for houses they physically go to Jamaica and build. So um, so it's like whatever, I might not have made anything, but we got to do it for a cause as well.
No, definitely.
Um, yeah. It,
Speaking of causes, this is
yeah.
probably a great time to introduce our very first Watch to Win. So
Yeah, it is.
Clay here has a jar
Here it
full
is.
of squirrel nuts. So bring that a little bit closer. Let everybody see how many nuts might be
Woo!
in there. So basically, what we are going to do is if you're listening to this, you're going to have to wait till Thursday when this launches. The first person to guess how many nuts are in this jar, or the first person to come close to the number of nuts in this jar in 24 hours. So Friday by 10 a.m. is going to get a Sqrl Nutt deck, some Pipsqueak wheels, inverted trucks, Zeg tape, and some Sqrl Nuts. So you're talking about a whole complete setup. So we'll repeat that one more time. Watch to win. How many Sqrl Nuts are in the jar? Love it.
Check it. Oh, I got a wheeler. Oh yeah, I'll put up a big picture of it too.
Yeah, of
Maybe a
course. Well,
video.
you'll see the flyers, you'll see the drop-ins right here. So pretty cool
Woo!
stuff. First watch to win. So congrats on that, Clay. Breaking some records or starting some records.
That's all I gotta say about that.
Oh man. So
Got me all riled up.
you've got team writers.
I do. Yes. They're amazing.
I can't really
I
say this enough. Like for me, like kind of looking at like the industry as a whole, like if you're a company or a brand, like having your own team to me is like a massive flex.
oh, that's so cool.
At least,
I didn't know
I mean
that.
that's how I kind of look at it. Like if you're a company, like a just a fingerboarding company, whether you make decks, wheels, whatever, like if you got your own team of writers, like I feel like that's a flex.
That's so cool. And you know, I had no idea. Like
I mean,
I
that's
just
just
thought,
my opinion. I mean, let me know in the
yeah.
comments. I mean, like, do you guys think that companies having their own team writers is a flex, or is it one of those like, that's kind of cool, but you know, I'm more
Mm,
interested in the whatever. Like, let me know in the comments what you think.
we should love that subject. Um, you know, personally, I started having team riders more towards the beginning, and I think I kind of put the cart before the horse because, or I mean, the cart in front of the horse because I couldn't really accommodate to the team, and I couldn't put as much into it as I wanted to. So I spend a lot of, especially at the beginning, spending so much time on every deck because I do paper graphs, um, and I make the decks, and um, yeah, especially in the beginning, and it takes me a long time to do it. And then when I'm giving away a deck to somebody and literally giving them, hours and hours of my time, so and that now I'm able to do more decks at once, and I have it down. But yeah, I was like, wow, I'm killing myself right now. Like, and then yeah, I started like over promising stuff, and then it's like, well, I'm going a little too nuts with this. I need to back down. And I ended up reevaluating the team and kind of just got back to like, hey, let's focus on the basics. My recommendation is, just get your bearings going before you add a team. The team will like select themselves, indirectly. Um, you know, my my writer now I've had since the beginning. He's always stayed on the team. Um, yeah, without him, I just don't feel like I would have been encouraged enough to keep going. Like just so much encouragement. He started out as a customer, and just like every time I did a drop, he'd get something. I'm like, man, that's insane. I can't believe someone's actually like, is this actually happening? Where there's someone that's like a returning customer and buying something off every drop? Like that wasn't feasible to me. And just like, and then we just started talking and communicating, and we've become great friends. Like, and he is always posting about fingerboarding. I think a lot of people ask to be sponsored, without realizing that, a lot of companies aren't just going to sponsor someone that fingerboarded for 2 weeks and put up some content. They're going to sponsor some people that are engaged in the community, and that are consistently posting content because they love to do it.
Well, that's one of the reasons
And
why I say it's a flex. It's a flex
mm,
to have a team because a team to me is everybody working together. A lot of people
mm,
think that, oh, I'm sponsored, and so like, I'm getting free stuff. But the reality is,
mm,
like you said, like those team writers inspire, the
oh,
brand ambassadors, the brand owner. Like, I mean, it goes full
mm,
circle. And so, like, you're producing
right.
stuff for your team. Your team is hyping you up, encouraging you to keep going, keep
Mm,
innovating, keep creating like better and newer products. And so, when I say like it's a
yeah.
flex, the fact that like you have a team that like incites that, like what a real team should be, that to me is a flex.
Mm.
To me, that's bigger than like, pretty much everything else in the industry.
Oh, yeah. And it is. It takes a little bit of. I've definitely made some mistakes at the beginning with my team, and but I feel like it's just made me rebuild a little stronger because now it's like, well, this is my goal for the team. Like, I want to have an awesome team. I want to make sure they have stuff, every couple of months, maybe every month. I get that much done. Because they do, they just like, they're the kind of people, if you take care of them, they take care of you. Um, I always felt that way about like employees, employers, like, if you take care of me, I'm going to take care of you. And, you know, and then it just kind of becomes deeper. Like Sean Senderling, he's one of the shop sponsors, and he just does so much for the community, and he genuinely loves it. And he's doing new tricks that people haven't done, and in helping introduce that, the world of the upside down, I call it, where the hand's upside down doing tricks. So seeing his influence, um, yeah, it's just so easy to spot it and be like, this guy's having an impact on the community in an awesome way. And he's a supporter. He supports without expecting, which great supporters are people who support without that expectation of being supported back. Um, they're just supporting because they love it, and they're selecting like items from every brand. They're just supporting every brand, and they're not knocking anybody. Like, you know, in music, those are the ideal bands you want, or people you want in your life in general. Like people who are just good humans, right?
Definitely. No, I
Yeah,
agree. I agree.
yeah. So it's easy to pick up team riders. Like in hindsight, I just added Baja Blast. And yeah, it's not like I just added him. Like we've probably been talking since the beginning. And I told him like, when I get more established, I'm gonna throw you on the team. It's like, and I was able to commit to that. And I just sent him a deck, and um, yeah, and it's wonderful. And it's because he consistently supported me and like posted his goofy, awesome edits and content. He's putting his personality into his content. Like, yeah, it's a no-brainer. No-brainer for me.
No, I get that. It's
Mm.
I mean, you basically kind of, I wouldn't say like crack the code, but you definitely figured out what it takes and what's necessary, I guess, for you to be a great team leader.
It's the experience of screwing up, taking a few L's,
It's part of the
right?
process.
Yeah,
People don't
yeah,
understand that, but taking L's is literally part of the process. I don't know
it
anybody who
is.
got it right the first time.
It takes so much. I cannot tell you, um, yeah, man, like how many L's I have taken to learn things. I'm a hard learner. I've have to experience things for myself. Uh, and when I gather that information, it always shows me like the answer, like, oh, this is where I stand. Oh, I had to suck at that to get good at this. Oh, I'm just thankful I was courage enough to suck at this for a little bit.
It's
I
just
know people that won't do something because it's hard. Yeah.
it's all hard. That's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, all of it is
Yeah.
hard. It's just one of those
Hmm.
things that's like, once you get to a point like myself, I don't want to like, brag or boast or whatever, but like almost
Yeah.
everything that I do is extremely difficult to do. You just got to
Right.
get yourself in a mindset like this is hard, but like it's not the worst thing you've ever done. And so like
Mm,
for me, I'm like, this is definitely difficult. Like, how do I make this achievable? And so
mm,
I don't want to go to boot camp. I know that's hard, but I know that like I can figure out a way to make it where I can achieve getting through boot camp. And so like
mm,
you got to kind of look at it like, all right, I know that's difficult, but like it's not impossible. How do I overcome the impossible?
mm. And yeah, I think a little bit of that, like that gym attitude kind of helps me. It's like the ability to break your goal down into steps instead of just being dreams. They actually become goals. And from goals, they come into steps that you walk daily, you know. Man, it's taking a long time to develop that kind of like understanding.
It does take a while. I
Hmm.
once you master it though, like
Mm.
you become like next level type stuff where you're doing
Mhm.
projects and you're doing things that like most people are like, dude, like how, why, like how is this happening?
Mm. It's really a skill. And you know, a lot of people see fingerboards, they see wheels, they see trucks, and they just see them as that. But there's some that actually like have the appreciation for the skills and the craft. And there's some these people are like masters at their craft. Um, and they're like they have skills that no one else can do. Um, so it really does come back to that. It comes down to craftsmanship. You know, people who have a process, like you talk about, like once you understand there's a process to everything, um, and if I face things as a process of like I'm actually going to do them, uh, yeah, things become possible
And
for
then
sure.
once they're done once, they can be done 1,000 times before. So
Mm, yeah, and if someone else can do it, yeah,
that's
so
the
can you.
biggest thing I think is that
Mm,
once you know that someone else has done it, then you like in the back of your mind, you're like, I know that I can do it too.
hmm. Yeah, because we all have that one friend we grew up with, and like they're successful now. It's like, oh my God, if my friend can make it in this different industry, like I think I can make it, you know?
It is weird because like
Yeah.
even like for us 90s, people like we saw Tony Hawk do the 900. We didn't know that like
Yeah.
that was possible. Now I feel like
Mm,
every new kid coming out can do a 900 is no big deal now. And so like
right.
once you know that like it's possible, people are like, oh, if he can do it, like I know I can figure out a way to do it too.
Right. Because it answers that question. Like, is that possible? Like that's
Yeah.
such a like a compound question. So dense. Is it possible? Like, well, how do I make it possible if it's never been done? Um,
Being a
and that is the
trailblazer
ultimate.
is rough.
Yeah. Yeah, and people do say some weird things, and some people are pretty critical. Like, the returns happen. Like, I had a couple returns at the beginning. It was very discouraging, and some people weren't very nice about it. And I'm like, I'll send you something new. I can give you your money back, whatever you want. Like, and yeah, and people still, even after you resolve it, like they'll just have a bad taste in their mouth. So, um, yeah, it's just so important to just brush that off, man, because there is so much like opposition, and there's days like at the beginning where I feel like I'm taking steps backwards, and there's always going to be days where you want to give up. It's like always going to be those days, at least for me. But the
Me,
most
it's the
important,
people. Sometimes
yeah,
like one DM can literally like put you like 2 months behind. Like
yeah,
sometimes like
yeah,
people like just say the meanest stuff to you and like it'll really
yeah,
like just mess with you the wrong way.
yeah. I, I do feel like having that art background, it helps with that. It helps understanding, like, because I can like this piece of art and like this person hates it, and says it's ugly, and I love it. Like, how can this person hate that? Like, I feel the complete opposite way. It makes you realize how different we all are. Like, so different, our tastes, our style. Like, what color are we painting our bedroom? Like, um, yeah, and just like working in people's homes my whole life. Everyone has a different taste and style. So I I think it's important to respect people's taste. Like, you know, it's like, oh, hey, I respect you have a different opinion, you know. You know, you know, I understand you didn't like it, but you really have to like post about it. You know, there's something I see all the time. I'm like, I don't think that that's good, or like I see something out in the world like that could be made better, you know. But I'm not um racing to post it online. Like that does have such an impact on people's psyche, you know, on people's minds. Yeah, a few words can really hurt you in this world. And what it has done is made me a little stronger. And I think being and in art in general, you have to be strong. Um, there were many years I was afraid to show people my art because I was afraid of what they would say. And now I'm like, no, I have to just be an artist and put things out. I'm gonna have some that are good. I'm gonna have some that are bad, but like there will be one that's very, very good. I know that. Like if I continue to do this and put in the effort, like that will happen. Yeah,
No,
just
I feel
having
that 100%.
mm,
We didn't really touch on your upcoming event. I think
event.
maybe I cut you off. I'm like,
No, that was me. I was
let's
Sqrl.
tell people like the day, the time, where it's at, what
Yes,
to
yes,
expect. Tell them the deets, spill the tea.
absolutely. So this event's title is called Fingerboom,
All
and
right, spell that for me.
Finger, and then boom,
Oh, boom.
Boom. Yeah,
I thought you said
it was a.
BOOB.
I wish no. We're trying to keep it family friendly. Yeah, all ages welcome. Finger boom. I accidentally said it in a conversation once about like this booming industry. It's the finger boom, right? That's what I call it. So, and I didn't want to make the event about me. I didn't want to make it about Sqrl Nutt. Like, I think that's really important, and people see that. Um, so, I the intention of the event is yeah, like a meetup, um, and this time it's actually focused on a competition as well. So with it being Wisconsin, you know, I'm unaware of any fingerboard competition happening. There may have been one at some point, but Keelan would probably know. Keelan over at Wasaki has a little more of the Wisconsin fingerboard history um, than I do. So, yeah, breaking new ground, man. Breaking new ground in Wisconsin. Partnered with Cream City Skate Park in Butler, Wisconsin. The event will be on June 7th. It goes from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Well, you said
So,
June?
or I mean, sorry, January.
Okay, gotcha. I was
One of
like,
those.
January
Yeah,
7th.
January.
Okay. I was like, man,
Yeah, the
that's way
first.
out.
Whoa. No, I'm not. Oh, I guess one of the J's. No, yeah, it's the new year. We're kicking off the new year on the 7th um, of January. So yeah, we're getting some sponsors. I think we'll already. I believe we have 5 tables. Trying to. Yeah, I have no idea how many people are going to show up at this point. I am kind of approaching sponsors a different way too. So when people sponsor, I do market things and like run advertisements. So I'll most likely put a lot of these sponsors in my advertisements. It helps get everyone's name out there. It actually markets the event. It reaches, and I do like geographical advertisements. So I'll be able to promote this event in that area and focus on marketing it and promoting it in that area. So that's going to be a little bit of a different appeal, and it really helps the sponsors as well. It gets their name in other people's mouths, and yeah, it gets more people on their social media accounts for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Also, if you're listening to this and you want to sponsor Sqrl Nutt's
Absolutely.
event, definitely hit him up on Instagram. I'll have links in the description for you.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, the cost is $10 to get in the event. The cost will help pay for the location and transport and everything. Um, yeah, just trying to, maybe 10 people show up. I can at least give the, facility $100 because we know they could charge a lot more.
No, I understand. I know all about venues.
Oh man, yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. And yeah, I can't imagine the experiences you've had with events and the people you've met, and yeah, what a network. What a small network of people. It's remarkable.
It's crazy when
How
you say that, and
yeah,
I look back and all
yeah.
the people that I've
Mm,
met, like just every state that I've been in, the networks, the communities, how knowledgeable I am with just kind of creating that. It's just, I mean, it's an
mm,
unreal experience when I look back at all the memories. I was kind of like going down memory lane a few days ago, looking at some of the
yeah.
recap videos and stuff from like
Mhm,
2022, and like we went out to like Denver, Colorado, and we went out to Montebello, like California,
mhm.
Las Vegas, and I'm like, man, that's absolutely wild and just like a nostalgic like feeling for sure.
I just love it, man. There's just so much opportunity, and yeah, and also I think you have the ability to get your hands on a lot of products, and you've been able to test out all these. You know, it's not just a fingerboard in a package. It's hey, try out my board. Try my deck. Hey, can I try your deck? Like, can I try your setup? Um, you get that hands-on experience as well.
It
So,
is wild when you say that. So
mhm, mhm,
I've owned, I've bought, and I've tried all the events that I've been to, events that I've hosted, like different variations of setups, molds. Like
mhm,
it is absolutely wild how much stuff is actually out there. And like for me, events is like a awesome way to be able to like test out, feel. Of course, you got to ask people like before you just take their setup, but like
mhm.
you come across,
Yeah,
maybe 10 or 15 people are like, hey, like, what are you riding? You're like, oh, I'm riding blah, 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 blah. And you're like, okay, I'll can I try it out? And you're like, yeah. And so, like,
yeah.
there's a lot of products I would have never known that I liked or even thought was even good until like I was actually able to try them out at events and stuff like that. And just seeing the quality, craftsmanship, stuff like that from all of these different brands is actually pretty wild.
It is. It is, and yeah, it kind of makes me think about like when I was young, introduced to fingerboarding. It, I really fingerboarded alone. There wasn't many. I had a couple friends that would fingerboard with me, but not like every day. Fingerboarding was something that was like just for me, and I didn't really have anyone to share that with. Um, and I loved it. And then all of a sudden, with the creation, of the internet, I was able to start looking at like fingerboards online. I remember, um, I think Winkler wheels and like there was this company called Z Shred. Um, yeah, just really like odd companies would pop up for fingerboarding, and I'd always just kind of be searching for them on the internet. And then, what really cranked the heat up and like changed everything was the communities, the groups on Facebook. Now we have a venue to all connect. Like we have a platform or a place where we're all connected now. So it's a huge contrast. Like no one to a connection with everyone. Like could almost get in contact with anyone that fingerboards, or has a brand in the industry. Like it's night and day. And all of a sudden it brings that feeling of like, wow, I didn't know other people loved this as much as I do. And we all have something very in common, like beyond the max, and like starting to meet other fingerboarders who are as good as me or better than me, and it's like what the I thought I was good when I was a kid. Oh man.
That was my thought process too. Like I was like, man,
Yeah.
like I thought I was, I mean, I still am good, but I didn't realize like the
Yeah.
level of fingerboarding is actually like pretty high.
Mm. Yeah, it's you know, it's like watching skate videos and trying to do those tricks, and all of a sudden it's like now there's you know even tricks that were made up have names, like these cancel tricks, like the the impossible can't to cancel or revert.
Oh, gotcha.
Like
Kickflip
you could,
underflips and feather
yeah, you
flips and stuff like that.
yeah, or the hospital flips, and
Yeah.
like how that I would just like sparks my eyes, like how do they do that? Like I can't. I've never tried that before, so I'm
It's
like
all the late
practicing.
stuff for me, like
Yeah.
kickflip, late shove. Like it's like, wait,
Mm.
what?
It's so interesting, and like, oh, I didn't know those tricks existed before, I was in this group, and let alone think of having a website. And a lot of it's just from like seeing people start theirs. Like I was there when like noise fingerboards came out, and yeah, I've helped a few people launch their sites, and I've able to like um yeah, I think I've helped people launch two sites and kind of give them my experience, or like consult a little bit and say like, well, here's what I did wrong. Here's what I do right. Here's what I do wrong. This is what works for me today. Um, yeah, it's just so helpful to other people. There is, and of course, as I'm sure you're aware, there is like gatekeeping in the community, and for it's understandable, of course, developing those skills takes a long time. Yeah, it's really important to make those connections and like talk with other brands, and make and help them out too. I feel like it's like if my story can help anyone in any way, then that's amazing, because that sucked. And if that somehow becomes useful today, like wow, wow. Someone told me the other day, it's like we see how our past becomes our greatest asset in life, and that's the truth. Looking back, like what did I enjoy the most in my childhood? What gave me the most sense of feeling? Like what's something I do today that I enjoy or gives me that sense of freedom? And yeah, just the ability to look back and say, well, I was happiest when I lived here. And then I realized, oh, it wasn't the people, or it wasn't the place so much. It was the people and how I felt in that moment. It wasn't so much the location. It's who I was. Like, did I try to make it fun, or did I just drag my feet the whole time and let everyone know it sucked along the way? Just this those seeing how that like experience can help other people, and it's not in vain. Um, that's probably the coolest part. I'd never wanted to get old or get older or age. I wanted to stay young forever, and I think that just is the coolest part. Like you know, it, it it's talked about a lot. Like in the community and at the skate parks. Like a lot of kids have mental health issues, and they're depressed, and they like want to die, and sometimes we have those tough conversations, and it's like today I get to be like, oh, I'm so glad like I hung in there, like 'cause there were so many times I didn't want to, and yeah, I just get to like share that experience, and like it sucks so bad. I'm like so happy, like something that sucked for me can help you, and I think doing that with other like brands and people super important, especially if they have a story. And I've gotten really close with Pep Squeak, and he has an amazing story too. And yeah, it just kind of developed this. It just has a deeper meaning today.
No, I agree. The
Yeah.
for those that might be interested, we actually did a podcast episode with Pick Squeak Wheels, and so if you guys haven't checked that out, it's definitely a good time to. A lot of these stories kind of interlapped into each other, so everything kind of comes
Mm.
full circle. So pretty interesting to see all this, for me at least, seeing it live right in front of my own eyes.
Yeah. And Zeg heads too, the people that have really helped me grow as Drew and Matt. Yeah, they're, I'm probably the oldest, but just like that passion and fire to like create, um, just their minds always like outside the box. Like, what can I do next? Like, what hasn't been done? What do I want to do? Um, what would I be comfortable working on for the next few weeks? And
Speaking of
then with
which,
their, yeah,
I know you got some future projects coming up.
yeah,
Something in the works.
yeah, absolutely. I've I've had the I've had the privilege of working with a few brands. One of the things I'm trying to incorporate more is getting these amazing companies overseas into the U.S. Um, something that's next is I'm going to have some Suave decks on
Really?
the site. Yeah, and recently I was able to meet Keelan, and he sponsored our event, Keelan Wasaki with Red Wolf and Wasaki Wheels. And just connecting with them and being able to put him in the shop and helping get his name out there more because he was a huge inspiration to me and still is. Yeah, being able to put that, because that's an honor for me. It's because I do have the ability to move things, and like I'm willing to sometimes put some money into it and like get creative to do it. Like, why can't I help get some of these names out there? Like, and in return, like it's a win-win situation. Like, get their name out there, I get some cool products in the store, I get new people coming to the store or the online store, and um, yeah, a lot of those relationships are like win-win. It's like, oh, Swab's never had his decks on a website in the US. Like, why can't I just do that? Oh my gosh, that just took one message and it's happening.
That's awesome.
Um, yeah, in Dogu, out in Scotland, I'm about to get a second batch of wheels from him. Like, how
Wait,
cool is
so
that? I'm able.
is that where he's
Yeah,
from? Is Scotland?
yeah,
I
I
did
believe
not
it's
know that.
Scotland. Yeah, I believe it's I believe he's Scottish. Yes,
I knew he was
no,
international. I just didn't know where.
yeah. I'm gonna have to verify that with him or look through
Yeah,
my
well,
messages, but yeah,
let us know in the comments if you know where he's from.
absolutely. I'll check it out. I think I probably got the package. Yeah, but to my knowledge, he's from Scotland. So
Awesome.
getting and those brands exist. Like, there's some amazing quality overseas, like that. I feel deserve a little recognition in the U.S. So I think that's just another like opinion that's manifested.
No,
But yeah,
I
that's one of
feel that.
my future things is helping great brands that like more established brands just need some more showtime in the US. So I hope to continue to do that. And artists like um, I've been able to like connect with some of my local artists in the area just from like the first music festival, right? I met this artist and I was able to put his graphics on a few of my decks and like I paid him out $5 for each one that sold. So I've done that with a couple local artists, and it's really like from an art point of view, like that's your dream. Your dream is to get your art out there for your art to be seen. So it's also like using that vessel to like help other artists too, like get their work out in the world. and get them some, get them some royalties for these awesome pieces of work that like maybe people don't get to see every day. And like for us, like, yeah, we get to introduce art in a whole different way, and like our art gets seen, whereas in other communities they wouldn't be seen. So, and now that art's circulating the world, and then I asked myself, you know, what was my dream? It was like, oh, maybe that dream happened. Like when I started getting my decks across the world, maybe my goal is to like have my art seen, and I think that's every artist's goal, at least for the most part.
No, it's definitely art's definitely making a comeback. I feel like it kind of tapered down a little bit, but I definitely feel like art in general, just all across all spheres, is starting to make a comeback.
Yeah, um, Kurt, I believe over at Savage Graphics, I know he does like hand drawn, and there's people out there that like hand draw some of the graphics, and it's remarkable. Um, and just that street culture we see, the '90s and early 2000s, like having that influence on what our art looks like within the fingerboard community today. It's really interesting to study that and like look into it. Um, but yeah, this fingerboarding has also provided a venue to like display art. Um, I actually, before the music festival, I did an art gallery with my mom and my sister because they're both artists. And yeah, I was just at a gallery with all my obstacles I built and all the fingerboards I made, and people loved it. And it was really hard to find, and still a few people showed up. So, mm, and one of the people I met there, like, I wasn't even there. I was gone that day, and he bought a deck, and like, I still talk to him today, and he came to the last event. It's like, wow, that was an art gallery.
No, that's awesome. We actually have we have some questions from the internet.
Oh, cool.
So we put some feelers out there, let people know that we were getting you on the podcast and to ask Sqrl Nutt some questions. And so we've got some questions from the internet. So we put
That's
these
awesome.
on Instagram, Facebook, pretty much anywhere we can pretty much interact directly with our fans. And so let's get into it. So we got question number one. Where do you stash your nuts?
In this little jar right here.
In this jar. Which, by the way, you
Uh,
still people have to guess how many squirrel nuts are in the jar. All right,
and we're the
question
only ones that know.
until Friday. Friday at 10 o'clock
Friday at
Eastern
10.
time. All right, any tips for people wanting to use granite for DIY parks?
Yeah, there's a wet saw for sure with that. I was actually on a job site the other day talking to someone who install like granite and marble counters, and yeah, it really comes down to the wet saw and taking precise measurements. Like I found a bunch of marble in the garbage, which is like, a pot of gold for us. Is finding that in the wild. And I'm like, yeah, I could cut, like, I see people like cut them into stairs. Like you can just, I've seen people, yeah, you can put them on any piece of wood and like make an obstacle. So these are really easy to use and incorporate if you have a wet saw and can take good measurements. And you probably don't even need any angle cuts to start with. So, it's a great way to look up granite and marble cutting with a wet saw and just get acclimated with that saw in particular.
Interesting. All
Yeah.
right, question number three. What got you stuck on loving beast pants so much?
Um, yeah, I would say Beast Pants is up there with my faves. I love the animation, like, the ability to like create these characters and like make cartoons and promotions with these characters. And of course, like, growing accustomed to the graphics and the art as well. And I always felt like that was more like one person creating all that. And of course, I respect, people who do it all. Like, Gutter Fingers, like start to finish. I think Gutter Finger was great inspiration to me too. Yeah, just doing the whole nine and doing his own art and yeah, just being that triple, that trifecta, the ability to do it all. And so I think these pants kind of like is one of those brands that for me set the standard and appeal to me and how I want to model my business. Maybe not so much being sold out all the time, but and getting into being more of a shop, but like just being able to like make cartoons and animations with the board graphics. I think there's a lot of opportunity and it hasn't been done much. Like, when's the last time we saw a fingerboard commercial? Has that ever been done? I don't know. Maybe so.
Not an like actual commercial. Now that I'm thinking about it, I've seen like
Yeah.
promotional edits, but never like an actual commercial.
Yeah, they used to have tech deck commercials back in the day. It was,
Yeah, those were
and I
epic.
was just like, let's go crazy. Like, I saw a dude kickflip. I'm like, whoa, did he really do that?
I think Slush
Whoa.
Cult may have
Hell yeah.
done a commercial.
Oh yeah, yeah, Slush probably.
I think they did. If I did, I'm gonna drop
Yeah.
it. I'm gonna drop it in the video for sure. If I
Cool.
remember somebody had it. I can't remember. Somebody on the West Coast. I think it was them. If not, don't butcher me. But
Yeah.
if you know, let me know in the comments. Like, let me know if you've seen a fingerboarding commercial. All right, question number 4. Who do you hope to collab with? By the way, this is like the most popular question. It's been
Oh
hit
wow.
like 6 or 7 times. Like, it's absolutely crazy. But yeah, who do you
Oh
hope
yeah.
to collab with?
DJ, double joint for sure. I loved double joint in all aspects, like the top of the deck, the side, the plies, the dies, the woods he uses, the graphics, his mixed media art. I with that street style, I love that bootleg aspect. Because that is a vibe. Like, um, we, for me, it's like now I'm getting more into like splicing photos so it doesn't risk any like copyright infringement, which is something that is now like becoming more enforced on, especially on Facebook, and it's trickling over to Instagram, but that will be an issue in the future. Um, but yeah, the ability to kind of like bootleg without it being noticeable, it's kind of fun. So um, yeah, just that street style, like street art, bootleg, spin off. I love it.
It's
And
awesome.
yeah, and how he sponsors events. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna make a 1-of-1 for your event. It's like, how cool is that? Like, that's a cool standard right there. It's like, oh, I just gotta make one deck for this. Oh, I thought I had to make 10. um, and yeah, double joint jumped on to Fingerboom as a sponsor, so just already like so proud of that. Yeah,
Right
stoked.
on.
Yeah, yeah, we got a bunch more sponsors adding as well, and I can't wait to announce those as well.
Yeah, definitely. I know we're a little early to the game, but it's definitely it's gonna be cooking. It's gonna be cooking for sure. So I know you've got a long list of people you want to recognize and give a shout out to.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, my riders, life in prison, um, Sean Senderling, and then we also have Baja Blast, also Katie Times, Her name is Tater Pop. She rode for a little bit. Also, blunts. That'd be Jordan. And then also JI fingerboards. And then I'd like to start thinking some brands. Of course, Pipsqueak, fingerboard wheels. I get to ride those as well. And also Zegheads, Drew over at zegheads.com. Also like to thank Keelan Wasaki of Redwell Fingerboards, and also Wasaki Wheels. Sean at Psycho Negative, who's been, we've been designing some decks and shapes. I've also partnered with Sean Eddy and need to work with him more over at PQ Distribution. Also want to give a shout out to Kickflick. I think that's an upcoming brand. And I just want to give a shout out to him. Also, all the sponsors that have jumped on the event. And yeah, just a personal shout out to my fiance that's sticking by this wild escapade, and maybe I've turned her life into a mess at times, but she's just amazing and supporting along the way. It takes a really strong woman to support something so out there. Yeah, if I forgot your name, I apologize. Yeah, of course, my rider's life in prison, especially my day one. Yeah, all my customers, everyone who's purchased something, anyone who's supported my art and my passion, directly or indirectly. I've had some kind words to say. Yeah, thank you so much. And I just couldn't do it without you guys. It just physically wouldn't be possible.
That's not too shabby. Not too shabby a list. I've
Very
actually
cool.
got a few shout outs of my own. First off,
Cool.
if you are watching this before everybody else on our Patreon account, thank you for all the love and support. Also, if you are not on our Patreon account, where are you at? We've got subscription boxes. We've got early access content to not only this combo of the year, we make announcements on the tour, maybe some tour stops. You're going to get all that info before everybody else. So also helps support the channel as well. So definitely like and subscribe. We've got combo of the year. Combo of the year is coming to a close. We got about 30 more days left of combo of the year. So get your best combo. Tag USAFBL_COTY. We're going to be giving out $1,000 cash, and we got sponsors from like 9 different companies giving out prize packs. So lots of stuff going on there. Clay, where can people find you? Where can people find you on the interwebs?
Let me think here. I'm in the groups. I love 420 Fingerboard Club. My name's just Sqrl Nutt. I changed it just to that. On Facebook. Also, I'm on Instagram at Sqrl Nutt, SQRLNUTT. Yeah, that's where I've been hanging out.
Touche. Well, I'm going to have all of those links in the description, so I'll make life a little easier for everybody. And thanks, Clay, for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Pleasure's all mine.
All right, till next time.
Till then, hey, this is great meeting you.
Same.
Hope to be in real person, real soon.